Good day, good day. I hope everyone is doing great. So, actually, now let's talk about NASDAQ, how to trade NASDAQ effectively. So, we have actually a few points that we're going to cover. So, without wasting any time, firstly, it's going to be a trend. Make sure that you identify the trend because NASDAQ actually follows the trends, whether up or down, right? Secondly, is time frame. Know which time frame are you supposed to use, whether you're going to go from top down or from down to up, but mostly it's going to be from maybe 4 hours time frame going to a 1 hours and 15 minutes time frame. Another thing is the structure. Understand NASDAQ structure. We call it NASDAQ or US 100 or US Tech, but understand the structure. Mostly, it doesn't really matter if maybe it's a trending market or whatever, but understand what mostly happens every time, because most of the moves they are actually going to repeat along the way, right? Another thing is, once you identified your structures, you should know where to buy, because all we do actually trending to identify the trends, the time frames that we're going to use, the structures that we're going to identify. We have to actually reach a point where we're gonna say, where are we buying, where are we selling, because that's something that we actually do, right? We analyze so that we can know where to buy or to sell, right? So another thing is understand economic news that affects NASDAQ. If you know, obviously, you go on economic calendar, which I'm going to show you after, and also know companies, any, which I'm going to cover that maybe in the middle of the video. So now let's go actually on our chart. So now I'm actually on DXY. This I just maybe actually, sorry, I wanted to actually show you this before I go on the actual NASDAQ. So this DXY actually, it's US dollar index. Actually, this measures the strength of the dollar. If the dollar is pushing lower, we actually know that it's losing its strength. And if we go on NASDAQ, mostly we'll find NASDAQ pushing up. This is an indicator that can also help. Not 100% every day, but it's not like it's gonna actually be like correlated 100%, but we know that mostly when we see this type of a sell is the time when we saw the NASDAQ pushing to the upside. So you should actually check this index, that it can also help. So now let's go on NASDAQ and try to cover whatever that we actually mentioned, right? And yeah, if you are new to this channel, welcome, welcome. And don't forget to smash the subscribe button, like, share with your friends. You are actually welcome to this channel. So the first thing that I was talking about is what is the trend. When we go on NASDAQ, we actually check the trend. What is actually a trend? A trend is when the market is doing what? We can see this thing is trending. It was trending going up and down. Now we can see the market is trying to push the upside. Why do we follow the trends? It's because we have a history where we saw that, you know what, the market can actually trend for quite some time, and that has been happening. Actually, the market can actually give us some very nice trends. So it means you have to use a bit bigger time frame. Right now we're going on the time frame, but not the different time frames that I'm going to cover also. So on the time frame that I'm going to identify the trends, I'm just going to use a 4 hours time frame. On my 4-hour time frame here, I can easily see that, okay, the market is starting from the bottom, now we're going to the top. Started from the bottom, now we're here, right? So now we push into the upside. That is a uptrend. And as I said, we follow what? The trend. And when the market is trending like this, just know that you're not supposed to go against this. If we see that the market is pushing up, obviously we're supposed to look for what? For buy positions. We did not actually identify any structure there, but we just actually identifying the trend. So once you identify the trend, with my strategy, let me get some Vaseline. With my strategy, I have to draw a support line. or a resistant line if the market was going down, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my support line here. I hope you're learning, guys, and if you're learning, smash the subscribe button, like. So here it's something that I'm going to do. I'm drawing double lines because that is actually a zone, so the market can still try to break that little bit, or I'm trying to avoid some fake breakouts, right? So now I'm actually done with my support area, because actually this is just to identify the trend, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the time frame. Now I'm done with the 4 hours time frame. I can go on any time frame that I want. I can go maybe, let's say, 2 hours. Why? Because I want to actually see things very closer. Let's see, the chart, it should be like a bit closer. So on this chart here, I have to identify, because I can't just show you here, I have to show you what happened even here. So on this smaller time frame, even if it's not that small, I have to actually get the structures that will help me actually to keep buying, because since we understand that we are actually on a trend, we now actually have to do what? To actually check where the market is going. But that actually goes with the time frame that I was talking about. Remember, we started on a 4 hours time frame on that trend. Now actually I'm supposed to be on 1 hour time frame, because I'm going to get those structures that I need very much. So what are those structures? So there are actually two structures in the market. It's either the market will be consolidating, which this is going to be a resistant area and a support area. We look for those structures, or maybe the market will be doing what? The market will be pushing to the upside like that. So this is a trending market. So we have to actually identify this area so that we can actually draw our support and resistance. I hope you're listening. So let's go on the chart and see if maybe we can get that. Let's see if maybe we can get that. So on 1 hour, by the way, I see here, I want to make this candlesticks bit thick. So I see this area here. What do you see? This is a support area. On top there, I also see something there. You see that? But just because the market is the market, guys, the market sometimes will create moves like this. When we check at the end of the day, when you draw your support, sometimes it might not actually make sense. But we can easily see that around this zone, the market was creating something there. Around this level, the market created something. So since we are smart, we are still going to draw the inner one here, because that is a counter trend line. But when we check, yes, it's actually the structures that I was trying to tell you we should identify. Why? Because once we identified this area, we know that we're going to able to reach our entry level. It's where we're going to say, since we identified everything, the market is respecting this area. It means since the market, we're going to wait for the market to bounce back from this area. Once it bounces back, we're going to take a buy. Once it bounces back, we're going to take a buy. So I think maybe the structure is not that big. Let me try to make it like this. So yes, let me draw that support area. This is the structure that you're supposed to do what? To identify. Why I'm using a very thick line here? Because the market is not forced just to respect this area. As long as this is a zone, it's where the market can just play around it. So every time when the market bounces here, we're going to have our entry around that area. Bounces here, our entry around this here. Bounces, our entry around that area. Similar to when the market maybe is going to sell. But on this one, the market was actually on an uptrend. But what we're going to do is, once the market moves away from this resistance, down here we're going to sell, down here we're going to sell, down here we're going to sell. The market will repeat doing that, even though the market actually along the way, it will change the structure or the pattern. But when we check, we're still going to we're still going to get quite similar structures. But in this way, now this is a diagonal form. Diagonal form actually is when the market or diagonal, let me just diagonal form is when the market moves like this or like that. But we still have the same thing. It's resistant here, support, support, support. It's just quite similar to when the market is actually on a horizontal form. But the market is now on a diagonal form. So we identify these structures, and once we identify the structures, now it's going to be way too easier for us to say, okay, we see that the market is creating something like this. If maybe, remember the trend, if maybe the market was downtrending, we were going to say every time when the market touches this area or reaches that very close to that area, we're going to take a sell. And you can even use that maybe to actually to scalp the market, you see. So now let's go to where we are now, actually to the current stage of the market. So here you can see, actually, let me remove this before so that we can easily talk about this. So where we are now is the market is creating some very nice structure. We can easily say, yes, the market was actually respecting this area as a horizontal area, as a horizontal resistance. But on the other side, since the market is actually on an uptrend, it seems like it's creating that diagonal form that I was talking about. But this time is doing what? Is pushing to the upside. Do you see that? So if you identify the structures, it's going to be way too easier for you to do what? To take trades. I don't think maybe there is anything that I have to explain further than that, but you can easily see that, okay, now I have to connect these points. You can see you have to connect these points. The reason why I like drawing two lines is because sometimes the market doesn't actually respect the zone that you are trying to actually. If you draw one line, actually the market might actually go beyond that, but that doesn't mean that it's a pure or a breakout. Sometimes the market is just playing around. So we're trying to avoid some fake breakouts with this double line. So the market has actually a chance to do what? To play around this area. Do you see that? And on top of that, if we try to connect, I think even that is going to actually make sense. You see, so now what are we going to do here? So you don't actually have to complicate things. You don't have to say, oh, this pattern candlestick 1 2 3. No, we know, since we use trend line, once the market touches our support area, our job is to do what? Is to have a buy pending above that. If the market is going to bounce back there, we're going to see that. But this is supposed to be what? On a 15 minutes time frame. So this can be, let me do a copy. We can have all this thing here. Copy again. You can see that even here we were going to have the same thing. So you see how things, this thing is moving. So what might happen next? We're just going to wait for the market to come back again. Once the market starts to do what? To try to bounce back, we will be ready actually. We will be ready to do what? To do the same thing and say, okay, we will be doing something like that. There's nothing special about that, but only when the market is respecting our support area. Once it bounces back, it's going to get our order ready, right? So, as I talked about economic calendars, so on the economic calendar, let me show you something. So when we deal with NASDAQ, actually we're done with the structures. When we deal with NASDAQ, we actually dealing with companies. So those companies, guys, we have to understand that since these are the companies, most of the time, around 3 months, actually, they release their earnings. That's it's something that is going to boost the, whether positively or negatively, NASDAQ, we're going to see it push to the upside or to the downside when they release their earnings, their results, if they performed very good or not good. You see, so those companies, we know that it's 100 companies, but not every company in there really matter that much. So we're just going to focus on 5 or 10 of them. I'm just going to show you those companies. From now on, you have to keep track of these companies, and you just search. Google will tell you, just search NASDAQ company earnings calendar. They're going to show you everything. They will tell you, okay, in 3 months, in 2 months, mostly they release around the same time. So it makes our job very easy. You don't have to search everywhere. So mostly it's around the same month, same week. So we know when we're going to see maybe some moves when they release their earnings. So the first one, it's Apple, is the biggest in NASDAQ. So you have to actually check Apple. It's a must. Secondly, it's Microsoft Corporation. So you have to check this one also. When they release whatever, last week they released their earnings, very good, and Nasdaq started to push the upside. The time the Nasdaq was pushing lower, at least Microsoft rescued us with their earnings were way too positive. Alphabet, this is a Google parent company. This is also another company that we actually check. These images here, they're not good. So Amazon company, Amazon.com also, it's one of the biggest in NASDAQ. Tesla joined the list actually. It's also one of the biggest. Meta platforms, or maybe let's say Facebook parent company. So these are the ones that we actually check. Another thing is learn to check your fundamentals, economic calendars, guys. Make sure that you check high impact. You can go on filter here, just click high impact news only, then it's where you go into get actually all this news as this as Nasdaq is in the US. Obviously these economic calendars, they're going to affect the likes of Nasdaq. So we saw that on Wednesday we had CPI that also affected the market, whether it's positive or negative, or maybe the market was consolidating because maybe the results were just mixed. So you can easily see that, okay, you can see next week that if maybe next week I'm going to trade, or on Monday we have this news, on Tuesday we have this news. So you're going to plan your trading wisely, no longer going to just bush around and do something that you actually don't know. Now, once you combine the trend, the time frames that you're going to use from 4 hours to 1 hour, structures that you're supposed to understand, that actually, I don't know if I showed you that, actually Nasdaq respect the previous moves. If the market maybe gives us this crazy sell here, the market sold like this, mostly we know that the market might come back around that area, even if it doesn't really come, but we actually have to mark that area. Besides, regardless whether the market is uptrending or downtrending, mostly the market creates moves like that. So if we check going back, you will see that every crazy move, the market actually comes back and try to test that area. We had in a very nice area, the market pushed up. Another test here, the market pushed up and created something here. The market came back again here and pushed the upside. Unfortunately, the market broke out of that. But when we check, that was an area. The market respects those areas. So the market actually creates this type of structures. The market creates this. Actually, I'm talking about Nasdaq when I see the market. So this type of structures, it's what you should actually check. They call them double M's or double bottoms or whatever, something like that. That is something that you should actually check on Nasdaq. And every structure matters. Every structure matters actually. So whether in a diagonal form, like here, you can see this is just the same actually as in a horizontal form. Do you see that? But if the market is not trending, it's where we're going to get the market creating structures in a form where we can just say, okay, it created something here. We can easily trace this and say, oh, the market, there is a chance for the market to come back around that area. Even on the bottom side, the market always creates something like this. Just because I don't really want to make this video very long, please don't forget to smash the subscribe button. The channel is growing very nice because of you, and I'm making this video so that you can learn something. And thank you very much. This is Kenzo Xtrahot Forex. So thank you very much. Bye.